Hey baddies, we want to take a quick minute to shout out our amazing sponsor, Eli Lilly, for supporting our mission here on Baddie to Baddie. Because of their generosity, we can keep these important conversations about breast cancer awareness, education, and advocacy going strong for our community of women of color. We send our sincere thanks to our partners at Eli Lilly for standing with us. Calling all permanent makeup artists. Discover how you can join our mission to empower breast cancer survivors of color with specialized permanent makeup services. It's more than makeup, it's a movement. Connect with us and find out how you can contribute to this empowering cause by visiting baddiebeautycollective.com. In return, you will receive free breast health education, permanent makeup trainings, and much more. The Baddie Beauty Collective is brought to you by For the Breast of Us, Artistry by Zuri, and PM Yukon. If you're a breast cancer survivor looking to boost your confidence and add a bit of swag to your new normal, this is your invitation to explore free and discounted permanent makeup services by artists trained in the specifics and nuances of skin for women of color. From eyebrows to 3D areola and scar transformation, join us and let your journey of empowerment begin. Check out the Baddie Beauty Collective, brought to you by For the Breast of Us, Artistry by Zuri, and PM Yukon by visiting baddiebeautycollective.com.
Welcome to Baddie to Baddie, a monthly podcast by For the Breast of Us, the first breast cancer community for all women of color, where we share real-life experiences, information, and education to help you live your best life after a breast cancer diagnosis. Welcome to Baddie to Baddie. Welcome to Baddie to Baddie.
Hello. Hey there, baddies. It is your OG, triple OG, plus size Baddie, April, coming to you live for this Baddie to Baddie production. And today we have another beautiful baddie that we are interviewing. Please welcome to the stage, Miss Tara. Hey, Tara, how are you, sweetheart?
Hello. Welcome. I'm welcoming. Let's see. I'm giving you this nice welcome from Birmingham, Alabama.
Birmingham, stand up. All right. Okay. Another Dirty South sister. All right. Okay. Well, I am here in Columbia, South Carolina, where it is, thank goodness, it's not as hot today as it was yesterday. I know it was hot in Birmingham yesterday, right?
It was. In fact, it was very hot Tuesday as I was traveling back by train from New Orleans. We were 3 hours delayed because of the heat. Ooh. It was 100 degrees in Birmingham yesterday and also on Tuesday. And the tracks, they say, expand during heat, so the train had to travel a little slower. So, yeah.
Wow.
But it's so much. I couldn't be out here on my sun porch today if it was the temperature it was Tuesday and yesterday. But fortunately, we had a little rain, so the temperature is nice and mild this afternoon. So, yes.
That's great. Well, safe travels. I'm glad that you made it back safely from New Orleans. How was your stay in New Orleans?
Oh, it was wonderful. I traveled to New Orleans last Tuesday, and Thursday went on Carnival Cruise to Cozumel. Then Monday and spent the night. That was a great way to go into my last treatment yesterday. Yes. I rang that bell. So I finished.
All right.
I finished radiation May 17th, and I celebrated that treatment with a trip to Key West.
Nice.
Yes, and then I celebrated this treatment, well, I entered into this treatment with a cruise and a trip to New Orleans, but I also celebrate the end of all of my treatments with taking my family to the beach. I leave tomorrow morning going to the beach. So yes.
Yes, I love it. Yes.
Yeah.
Which beach are you going to?
So we're going to go to Orange Beach down in the area called Perdido. And so it's going to be about 28 of my family members, including myself. And we'll be in a nice 8-bedroom beach house. And yes, having a wonderful time.
Girl, that is amazing. Congratulations to you.
Thank
Congratulations
you.
on ringing the bell, finishing radiation, and having the opportunity to celebrate with your loved ones. There's nothing better than that, honey. Nothing better. And then the beach. Oh,
yes. Yes. So looking forward to it. So looking forward to it.
That's what it's about. It's about all of those celebrations. That is wonderful.
Most definitely. And I also started, it's crazy that my treatment was yesterday. Yesterday was June 26th. My mammogram was on June 26th of 2023. So I actually ended where I started. And,
wow.
And the amazing thing is that before I started treatment, the Sunday before I started treatment, first treatment was August 9th. The sermon was, start with the end in mind.
Come on now.
Start with the end in mind. And so my end was victory. And I had no idea when on that Sunday that my last treatment was going to be on the very day, a year later from when I had the mammogram. But I started with the end in mind.
Wow. That's a testimony. And I know that'll be an inspiration to many of the women or even families that are going to watch this recording. So starting with the end in mind and ending in victory.
Yes. I started with victory in mind. So yes.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
God is good.
All the time.
All the time. God is
good. Amen. Amen.
My message the other day was, is God still good even when the outcome isn't? And I was like, oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Because today my message was about how all those twists and turns, the things that I was going through where it looked as if the outcome wasn't good, I had no idea that it actually was working out for my good. Mm-hmm. That everything I was going through was for my ultimate good. Though, what's that? Your present troubles are working in your favor. It doesn't look that way, but yes, everything I was going through last year was for my good.
Mm-hmm. So tell us one of the things that cancer has taught you. What is something you've learned from your journey?
Before this cancer diagnosis, I had already been in this mindset where I had stopped saying, I don't know how I'm going to make it. Mm-hmm. So the past 20 years have taught me, don't say how you don't know how you're going to make it. Because God has showed up and proven time and time again, you've made it. You're still here. So clearly you made it. But cancer, specifically for me, you can have mountaintop highs while simultaneously have valley lows. Mm-hmm. And I definitely a year ago was experiencing a mountaintop high and a valley low simultaneously. Okay. I was already coming off of a year and a half of valley lows. As a school teacher teaching 7th grade math, during the 22-23 school year, I lost 4 students to illegal drag racing, drive-by shooting, 2 students to gun violence, and 1 to suicide. And mixed into all of that grief, I lost my first cousin. He was diagnosed. I got his diagnosis on a Thursday that he had been diagnosed with cancer. And the following Thursday, the same time, I was in the same place. My father was calling me to tell me that he had passed away. I hadn't even had a chance to process that he had been diagnosed. I hadn't even had a chance to talk to him. I was trying to let him just absorb this and start his treatment. And then a few months later, a week after one of my students was killed in a drive-by, my own sister died a week, like almost to the exact time. She died here at home. She had been dealing with renal failure, kidney failure. So last year, June 26th, I remember I was in a great headspace. I had finally scheduled a hysterectomy that I needed. So I was looking forward to no more periods, no more dealing with anemia and all the things that go along with fibroids. I had also found a new teaching job. I was scheduled to be board approved on June 27th. So I had been offered this new job teaching 8th grade math, which was going to be closer to home. I was so excited. No more 40-minute commutes. I was just going to have a 10-minute ride down the road. And I had also completed my STEM certification. So I was on a mountaintop high. I was on a mountaintop high that day, June 26th. And I go in. I had a breast exam in May, and we had scheduled my annual mammogram for June and had it on June 26th. So of course, with the breast exam, they had already checked me. We didn't feel any lumps. And I remember sitting in the waiting room and reading the pre-printed paper. Patient has no history of breast cancer. And the young lady, I said, start with the left breast. It feels funny. She started with the right. I said, you always start with the right. And she says, I'm going to have to repeat the imaging. I was like, don't come with it. There's nothing wrong with my right breast. Go back over here to this left, but come on, let's start with the left breast where I feel this weird feeling behind my nipple. But she said, you don't feel that lump? I said, what lump? And she helped me find the lump. And then she showed me the image, and it lit up like the moon, a full moon in the sky. Like it literally lit up like a Christmas ornament on a Christmas tree. I could just see it. And so the next day, well, that same day, we had the ultrasound. They told me that afternoon, yes, you need a biopsy. Let's go ahead and schedule this biopsy. Well, the next day, I was board approved. 2 days later, I was having my biopsy. At that time, the radiologist, she says, I don't like how this look just popped up out of nowhere, and I don't like how it looks. Can you cancel your surgery? And I was like, cancel my surgery? I need this surgery. I've been struggling with anemia. I'm finally going to get these fibroids removed, to have a hysterectomy.
Right.
And so instead of canceling my surgery, I went ahead and completed my pre-surgery testing. I spoke with my surgeon, who actually was a gynecologist specialist who specialized in, difficult cases and cancers of the uterus. And she said, we're going to cross that bridge when we get to it, if we have to. And so we go ahead with my surgery. I go ahead and write my letter of resignation that weekend. So this was a Thursday, June 29th. I'm having the biopsy. I write my letter of resignation June 30th. I email it July 1st. I have my surgery on July 3rd. I come home on July 4th. I get the phone call from my radiologist that it was cancer. Not only was it cancer, it was triple negative. Within that 1 month's time, I was trying to heal from a hysterectomy. And the day they called me, they was like, okay, you got an appointment in 8 days on the 13th. You're going to meet the whole team. They've already got a team together. They've got a treatment plan. So I didn't even have a chance to heal. I was 10 days after surgery, I was meeting with the team. Within a week after that, I was having PET scans, echoes. By the end of the month, the port was being put in. But also, I notified my new employer that the week that the port was being put in, that I was going to have surgery, because I couldn't just go in the cath lab and have the port put in. I had to have surgery. And so I told them, hey, I'm not going to be able to come in for the PDs, the professional development. And the first day of school is the first day of my treatment. That's all I know. All I know is this week I'm having surgery to put a port in. I'm also going to have another biopsy. And the first day of school is going to be my first day of treatment. I'm in a clinical trial. They haven't finished putting me in all the different arms of the study, so I don't know much. So here's my valley low. So my mountaintop high was finish my STEM certification, found a new job, got board approved. Valley low. Diagnosed with breast cancer, stage 2, invasive ductal carcinoma, triple negative. And the job offer, they rescinded it. They said that it was the substitute teacher shortage, that I wouldn't have FMLA as a new employee. And Alabama law requires that I be in school on the first day of school. And so the duality, I understood what the artist, John Baptiste, he was talking about the duality of life, accepting all those Grammys a few years ago, while at the same time dealing with his wife's, the leukemia coming back and coming back more aggressively. While he was accepting a Grammy, giving the best performance of his life, his wife was going through chemo. I fully understood what he said in that moment, the duality of life. Here I am. I'm so excited to start this new adventure. And boom, I'm hit with a cancer diagnosis. And now when I'm hit with a cancer diagnosis, now I'm going into the school year with no job. I'm going into treatment with no job. And I remember thinking, I remember friends saying, you need a job. You got to have insurance. And I was like, that's okay. I'll pay for Cobra. Cobra's $500. You crazy? You don't have a job. I was like, but my brother says he will pay for it. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Just as the Cobra, I should have been applying for the Cobra, sending these people my money. They sent it back. They rejected it. They said that I was eligible for Medicare. And because I was eligible for Medicare, they couldn't sign me up, and I couldn't buy insurance anywhere until Social Security turned on my Medicare. And I had no job, and the only way I can get Social Security to turn my Medicare on was send them $2,500. I don't have a job. I got to send you $2,500. So I had to send $2,500, and it wasn't like, Social Security just turned it on. They got my check and they turned. No, it took. My treatment started on August 9th. My current insurance expired on August 31st. So September 1st, I was going into the second 6 weeks of my treatment, and I didn't have health insurance. In fact, Social Security did not reinstate my health insurance until just before Thanksgiving. So, yes. But here's another thing that cancer taught me. Everything, my present troubles really were working out for my good, because I couldn't see it then, but having them to deny my Cobra meant that I didn't have a $500 monthly premium, because Medicare premium is $174. And yes, it hurt to send them that $2,500. The fact that going forward, I would have healthcare insurance and not have to pay that $573. It was going to be $174. And yes, it didn't even hurt when they told me that legal said that I was free to reapply when my situation resolved itself. That's exactly what they said. I actually felt a burden lifted. Like, I was like, the lady was like, I'm so sorry, I'm adding to you. I said, actually, you're not. I said, why do I feel so free? I said, well, I don't have to write no lesson plans. I ain't got to worry about trying to get ready to teach no new, grade, subject matter. I can stop making all these copies. I don't have to do anything. And I can go through, I went through treatment without having to deal with, it was just peaceful. It was just so peaceful. And even the fact, because 2 years prior, in January of 2021, in the right breast, I'd had calcification to pop up on a mammogram. Okay. And I had the biopsy and it was benign. But before having the biopsy, so I didn't really understand this. And this is part of I want to do for advocacy, is helping people to understand that process. Because usually as women, we either have our primary care physician or our gynecologist to schedule the mammograms. And then, if something comes up, if something comes up, you get this letter from them, and you're probably going to get a call from both your gynecologist or your primary care physician saying, hey, we need to find you someone to look at these results and determine if you need to have a biopsy. So in 2021, I went through this. I had an abnormal mammogram. I had to be referred to a surgeon to determine if I needed a biopsy. She actually said no. She said that she felt she couldn't do a biopsy for me because of my weight without it being surgical. She couldn't do a non-surgical biopsy. And she didn't want to put me through a surgical biopsy, and I have a history of blood clots. So she just wanted to wait 6 months and repeat the MRI. Repeat the mammogram. But I said no. I advocated for myself. One of the things I'm telling people is you got to speak up for yourself. If you don't feel comfortable, speak up for yourself and say, no, that is your right. So I called my primary care physician and I said, I'm not comfortable with her decision. Send me somewhere else. And he did. He sent me in to the hospital that I'm being treated now. He sent me there. They not only did that biopsy, it wasn't surgical. They did that biopsy in a chair. I sat up in a chair. It was a mammogram guided biopsy. They did it. It was benign. So I was already in their clinic. And so this cancer diagnosis helped me to see how different things were from 2021 to 2023. Because in 2023, I go in, I have a mammogram. That very afternoon, I'm given an ultrasound. I don't leave. They're like, wait, we need to look at this closely. I get an ultrasound. Before I leave that office, I already got a biopsy scheduled. I didn't have to go to someone else to be told whether I need. They told me right then and there. And they were like, well, we're going to get this scheduled this week. I had that biopsy on Thursday. And the holidays, it was the 4th of July holidays. By that Wednesday after the 4th of July, I had my diagnosis. But not only did I have my diagnosis, she said, don't worry. When we hang up, before the end of the day, your next call is going to be coming from the scheduler because they already have put the team together. The team has already been put together. The radiologist, the oncologist, as well as the surgeon, and they're already putting together a treatment plan. And so when I hung up from her, the next call came from my nurse practitioner who I had been seeing there. And she gave me a little bit more info. I had a relationship with her. I knew her. She was calling me and saying, this is not what we were expecting to see. This came up out of nowhere. But she was giving me more information from the pathology report. And the next call was from scheduling. Your appointment is on the 13th. And you're going to see everyone. And I did. I was so overwhelmed on that day. And I had questions. I had my little notebook. But every question that I could have thought to ask was answered in the first 15 minutes of my appointment. And so, yes, this diagnosis taught me that you can have a mountaintop high and a valley low at the same time. But it also taught me that I couldn't see what was coming up ahead. That over the past, since 2020, God had been positioning me for this moment, putting me in my place, telling me to do stuff that at the time I couldn't understand why I was doing it, like buy a cancer policy. In 2021, I bought a cancer policy. I didn't have no cancer history in my family. At least I didn't think I did. That's my next point. We as Black people have got to stop being secretive about what we are going through, because it's not about doing your business. It's about you saving your family members. It's about you saving your son, your daughter, your future grandchildren, your cousins, your nieces, because I went into that mammogram, into all of my mammograms, thinking that the only person in my family that had breast cancer was my mom's first cousin. And I really thought, okay, this could have come from her dad's side of the family. She's related to me through her mother, who was my great aunt. And I also knew that my grandmother's niece had died with breast cancer, and she had been diagnosed with breast cancer in her 80s, and she died from breast cancer. But again, I thought, this is on her dad's side. This is not on her mom's side, which is my my grandmother's sister. So I'm like, So I'm not seeing this disconnection. What changed for me was the night before my biopsy. My cousin, and she and I had extensive conversation about what I was going through. She says, grandma had a lump removed in the 50s. Now, she was born in 54. So she didn't know the extent of the conversation or the extent of what my grandmother's diagnosis was. She just remembered at that moment that my grandmother had had a lump removed. So I went to my mom, who's 86, and my mom says, it wasn't cancer. I said, okay, maybe it wasn't cancer, but did she have something removed from her breast? And so I called my aunt, who is 90. She didn't remember. I called my eldest brother, who, of course, wasn't born until 3 years after my cousin. He had no clue what I was talking about. But my brother Mark, who was born in 59, he said, well, this happened before I was born, but I do remember them having conversations about her having had something removed from her breast in the 50s. So I'm like, okay, wait, her two nieces, because it wasn't just one niece. She had two nieces. They were sisters. They had breast cancer. They died of breast cancer. My first cousin, my grandmother's grandchild, was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2022. Ductile carcinoma. Hers wasn't invasive. It was stage 0. That's my first cousin. That's getting closer to me. And then the day of my mammogram, my mom goes, well, Grandma, Aunt Florence, she died of breast cancer. I said, no, I did not know that. That's my mom's first cousin's mother. That's my great aunt, my grandfather. So now I'm sitting here like, I do have a family history of breast cancer. And then I learned that my first cousin on my father's side had breast cancer. So I not only have a maternal history of breast cancer, I have a paternal history. So we need to start telling each other, our loved ones, our family members, about our medical history. I mean, It's one thing when kids are adopted and they say, I don't know my family history, but it is a shame when you are born and raised in a family and people are so secretive and you still don't know your family history because people just don't want to talk. So
No. There are 3 things in the African-American family that we don't talk about. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about health. And we're not talking about sex. No. We're not talking about those 3 things. But here we are, alive, thriving, and we're going to talk about it all.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes, because it's important, especially the healthcare piece, because, one of the first things I say to newly diagnosed people, one of my first questions, of course, after how are you doing? Everything okay? Have you gotten a genetics test done? Because, the genetics testing is not just for you, it's for generations to come for preventative care. And, a lot of conversation in healthcare community, if you're talking to doctors, you may experience where a doctor will say, oh, well, your insurance doesn't care for that. Doesn't matter. Does not matter because you can't put a price tag on life.
Exactly.
And they accept payment plans and all the other things that everybody else accepts. What's important is to know your family history so you can be prepared for what may come down the road. Not if, but when.
2 things on that. Number 1, I have started telling my doctors, you're not my insurance manager. You are my healthcare manager. Stay in your lane. Stop dictating what you need to do for me based on what you think my insurance company won't pay for. You let the people who do that for a living be responsible for that. Because whatever they prescribe you, whatever they say, then what you need for them, now you go advocate for me to get it. But don't tell me that I can't have something done simply because you think my insurance company won't pay for it. You stay in your lane. You advocate for my health care, and I'll fight my insurance company or get somebody.
Come on now.
So that's what we have got to stop doing, is letting doctors tell us that you can't have something or get something because the insurance company may not pay for it. You are you're not an insurance company. You're a healthcare provider. And you don't you don't even process their own claims and come through your office. You got people in here that do that. Well, make them work for me. You prescribe it. And now you make your people go advocate for me to get it done. And another thing to that point, I had another thought about you don't have to always pay for it. Right now, UAB has what they call the All of Us study. They have been for the past 5-6 years trying to get African Americans to participate in this study where they're actually asking you to give them a sample of your blood so they can do genetic testing. And one of the things that they look for is cancer. And All of Us is not just localized here in Birmingham. All of Us is across the country. So there may be studies in your area at some of your teaching hospitals where you could actually get this genetic testing done for free.
So when you say maybe you're talking about the University of Alabama in Birmingham?
Exactly. Yes. They have what they call the All of Us study, where they are trying to get blood samples from the people of African descent to look at genetics, to look at our responses to different medical treatments, even just some types of healthcare issues that we carry that might be, ethnic related type diseases and different things. So they've been doing this for about 6 years and it's free. I mean, they're not charging you for you to give them a sample of your blood, and they're doing the genetic testing. And if they find something, of course, they're sharing it with you.
Okay. I'm writing that down so that I could drop that into our private Facebook group. So as information for others. Another way is to, once you receive the genetics testing and you've paid for it, if you had to, since you have a family history, your family members, your relatives, they can get the genetics testing for free. And there are grants through the companies that do the testing to get free testing. So there are a lot of options out there. And to add to what you were saying about they're not your insurance provider, they're also not your financial planner either. So they need to stay in their lane with that as well. You don't know how much money I have. You don't know what I have saved up. And you don't know what kind of support that I have outside of this office. So like you said, take care of my health and let me worry about the rest, or let the others who are responsible for that worry about that part.
Yes, exactly. Okay. And I also participated in a clinical study.
I heard you mention that. So immediately you were linked to you received information about the clinical study as soon as you were diagnosed?
So yes. So like I said, within 8 days of my diagnosis, I had an appointment I met with the surgical oncologist, the oncologist, as well as the radiologist. I also met with the oncologist navigator. The genetic testing person came in. I had genetic testing done that afternoon. I was so overwhelmed with all the people. I had I didn't just meet the doctors. I met the support staff as well. And so we talked about standard care. And we talked about from the beginning that with this type of breast cancer that I was eligible for the neoadjuvant treatment, which is treat chemo before surgery. We talked about the type of surgery that would be better for me. The type of surgery that would be better for me. And then we also talked about a clinical trial, the I-SPY2 trial. And we talked about that this trial wasn't using new drugs. This trial was using drugs that have been used in late stage cancers other than breast cancer. And so they wanted to see how these treatments would respond to, or rather how this triple negative cancer would respond to these other late stage drugs. So I was paired with this clinical study. So I made the decision to go ahead and participate in the I-SPY2 clinical trial. And so a few things that we learned once they did DNA testing, because I ended up having a second biopsy. So I received my mammo print and my imprint. So the mammo print shares what is your risk of recurrence. So my mammo print indicated that I was high risk for recurrence within 5 years. My imprint confirmed that I would be eligible for chemo before surgery, but more specifically that I would be eligible for immunotherapy. And so I ended up being placed in the randomized study, the arm of the study. My treatment plan was the first 12 weeks in block A would be a part of the study, where I would receive a drug called samimiplimab, which was the immunotherapy. And I would also receive an injection of a VV1 virus directly into the tumor. I called it the alien virus because it reminded me of that TV show called V from back in the 80s that used to come on NBC. And so every time they would come in, they was like, "What are we about to do to you?" I said, "You're about to inject me with this alien and virus. Hopefully I won't be glowing in the dark." So that was I had to have humor. And that's another thing I learned is that you can't get into this woe is me. You have to be positive. You got to think positive. Every treatment, my focus was not on treatment. My focus was on what type of shoes I was going to wear, what new Jordans I was going to buy, and what outfit I was going to pair with that. And my students were like, "Miss Ransom, just put on something comfortable." I said, I got to look good. I can't look like a patient. So that's what I did. I had 4 treatments over 12 weeks. And every treatment, my doctor, she was like, "You coming up in here with some kicks every session." So so you got to think positive, and you got to find something that's going to help you to feel good about yourself and think positively. But I went through those 4 treatments over 12 weeks. And before each treatment, I had a breast MRI, and they compared how the staging of the tumor. Was it decreasing? They were looking not only at the size, but they were also looking at the volume. And so we determined if something wasn't going right, we would pull the plug and move on. But everything went well. So I got to the end. I did my 12-week breast MRI. I did another biopsy. And so I was scheduled to start block B on November 1st. And that was going to be 12 weeks of weekly chemo, as well as immunotherapy with Keytruda. And so my doctor said, "Well, I'm going to delay block B by a week. I just want to make sure I got all the numbers back from the study, as well as the numbers that we have here at the hospital." And she called me the day before I was supposed to start block B and said, "You've been approved to go to surgery. We're not going to block B." And she had started off she started off in August saying, "You're going to block B." But I had read through the study materials that the determination of whether you go to block B would depend on the outcome of your final MRI and your final biopsy, 12-week biopsy. And she said, "No, we're going to block B." By September, she was like, "We might not go to block B." By that last treatment, she was like, "We need to delay block B to just make sure that we got all the data." And 2 days before I was supposed to start block B, she said, "We're not going to block B. We're going to surgery. There is no cancer found in the pathology report."
Look at God.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, yes, indeed. So I ended up having my lumpectomy December 4th. And the reason why, everyone has something to say about my treatment. Either they would say, "Oh, we're going to pray that you don't need this." I said, "Stop praying against me. Okay." I said, God gave me an index size card plan of 3 steps. I was going to receive treatment, surgery, radiation. Stop praying against me. And he also sent along people who were going through a similar journey. He sent along resources, and he reaffirmed for me that he was with me every step of the way. So we had already determined that I did not need to have a mastectomy. Not that there's anything against having a mastectomy. It's just that don't let other people make those decisions for you based on what somebody else had, because everybody doesn't know what your personal health issues are. For me, a mastectomy was not in the equation because I have a history of blood clots. And, a mastectomy is a very long surgery. So for me, I needed less surgery, less recovery time, less possibilities of having blood clots. And and that's why I needed to go ahead and have that hysterectomy when I did, because I didn't need to be dealing with heavy bleeding and possible blood clots while also trying to go through chemo, going through treatment. So I had my lumpectomy. My radiation did get delayed because I did experience a seroma where I experienced my incision leaking. What that the injection of the virus did cause some necrotic tissue. And so I advocated for myself at that appointment where we discovered that necrotic tissue. I told them, we're going to remove that while you're in there removing those clear margins from where the tumor had been, because this was just above where the tumor had been. And I said, we're going to go ahead and take care of that now so this doesn't be an issue down the road. But where my incision was where that necrotic tissue had been. So not only did I develop a seroma, I had to also deal with this tissue that was already damaged. And then I started my post-surgery immunotherapy with Keytruda, which spiked my blood glucose. So I had spiked blood glucose, seroma, necrotic tissue, so my incision reopened in January. And that delayed my radiation treatment. But everything worked out for us for the good, because I ended up going to wound care. I advocated for myself to go to wound care so that my incision could heal properly, because, everybody has a specialty. So the wound clinic, they were able to prescribe the exact treatment that promoted healing. And I was able to get we ended up having to start my radiation with an open wound. And I successfully completed 19 radiation treatments in 15 days. It had to be 19 and 15 days because they were intruding on my trip to go to Key West. So, I said, and then Dr. Boggs, you forgot, I'm going to be in the Keys, leave it on the 19th. Now, I thought you said we was going to be done on the 17th. So I ended up having to have 4 days where I had double treatments, treatment in the morning, 6 hours later, treatment again. But everything went fine. My incision actually has healed. During radiation, it did slow down the healing a little bit, but after radiation, the incision healed. It has closed up. And I just finished that last treatment on June 26th, yesterday. So I'm done now. And they've already scheduled for this port to come out.
All right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
That is awesome. Amazing testimony. Now, did I hear you say that you went back to work at some point during this?
No, I did not. Once that school system rescinded my offer, I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to spend this school year taking care of me. The only people I was
helping was probably long overdue.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I was, of course, helping my little nieces with their math. So I had one starting her freshman year, so she needed help with geometry, and 2 were in 7th grade. So I did make them some little study guide books. That was the extent of me using my teaching knowledge. But I spent the rest of that time focusing on me. My aunt wasn't happy that I shared on Facebook about my cancer diagnosis, to which I replied, look, I'm not wealthy. I don't have the resources to hide behind and, can pay for all these people. There may be people out there who can help me. They may not be able to help me, financially, but they can help me by offering information where I can turn to different resources. So why hide it? There's this whole community that's out there. And this community really helped me because I joined different groups. My cousin, she referred me to a local group here called Sisters Can Survive. I've become an active member with them. And so Sisters Can Survive is a group of Black women who are thriving, surviving and thriving with endometrial cancer, uterine cancers, breast cancer. And so we raise funds to help sisters who are going through treatment with copay assistance, with transportation, with meals. And then we also go on a peak weekend trip as well. And so, and then I also use, what better testimony? It's one thing to tell people God is good and he'll get you through it. But if you show people, because a lot of times people look at you when you only want to describe when you come on the other side. But I was letting people in on the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I was telling them, like, is God good? when the outcome is not great? Yes, he is. And I kept on just, telling people about that, telling people about my experiences, what I was going through with, my health insurance. I was just sharing because I felt like there was somebody out there who needed to hear it. And I needed them to see that I can still be, happy, upbeat, right, laughing, joking, while I'm going through. Like I tell people all the time, I'm so glad I don't look like what I've been through.
Amen. Amen. So for you, every treatment, you were preparing your outfits and your Jordans. I'm also an educator, and my tag name on my Instagram is Cool Counselor with the J's. So I was going through treatment while I was still working, and I treated every time I went to the doctor was because my doctors were in Atlanta and I would have to fly. So I would treat it as I get to eat at a new restaurant today. So it was like another opportunity, like a little mini vacation for me. And it worked. It worked. And I was so happy to be able to get through that. Now, once it was all over, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, wait a minute, did this really happen? Like, did that really happen? But it was okay because, again, there were so many blessings that came from the diagnosis. There was so much good that came from the diagnosis. Even today, us being able to have this conversation, for you to share your testimony and to share how, although you had some low moments, all of it was for the good of God. Yes. Oh, so awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. So now that you have found For the Breast of Us, you are officially a breast cancer baddie. Welcome to our tribe. Welcome to our community. We are happy to have you. Thank you for sharing your story. I know that that's difficult when you have family. The older generations, they believe praying in silence, not telling your story. But I believe that, we're stronger in numbers and we're stronger because of our testimonies that we share with each other. So thank you for joining me on today. And I always like to close out with something fun. And you mentioned that you're getting ready. You just came back from a cruise and you've been to Key West and you're getting ready to go to the beach. So tell me, do you prefer lemonade or margarita?
Margarita.
All right, girl. That's what I'm talking about. It is 5:00 somewhere.
Somewhere. Yes, indeed. I already called my niece and said, you are going to make me some groovy smoothies while we're at the beach. She said, yes, ma'am. So thank you very much.
That is awesome.
Thank you very much. Yes, indeed.
Well, Tara, thank you so much for being with us today. And we look forward to having you on in the future for another Baddie to Baddie podcast. So I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining, ladies. Bye, baddies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This is another Baddie creation brought to you by For the Breast of Us. Don't forget to subscribe to Baddie to Baddie wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram at For the Breast of Us, on Twitter at The Breast of Us, and check us out online at breastofus.com. Thanks for listening.